Hello, I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York. Welcome to One. Each week, we address issues of timely and timeless concern with newsmakers and the journalists who report on them, with artists, writers, scientists, educators, social scientists, and government leaders. We speak to each one. I'm delighted to welcome one of our own, Dr. Sadie Bragg, Senior Vice President and Provost of Academic Affairs and Professor of Mathematics at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. She's written or co-authored more than 60 mathematics textbooks and is the winner of the 2010 Mathematics Excellence Award. The Borough of Manhattan Community College is the largest community college in the CUNY system, with more than 22,000 degree-seeking students and an additional 10,000 continuing education students a year. Wow, big numbers. Welcome.
Thank you.
You know, I suspect that there are a lot of people in New York City who don't know a lot about BMCC. So tell us something about it, how it compares with the other community colleges in terms of size, demographics, characteristics.
Well, BMCC is the largest community college in the system of the City University of New York. We're the only community college as of now located in Manhattan. And our students, however, come from all 5 boroughs. One would think that the majority of our students come from Manhattan because we're Borough Manhattan Community College, but a large number of our students come from Brooklyn.
Okay.
So we have students from all of the 5 boroughs. We have 27 actually academic programs. You've already said we have 22,500 students. We have approximately 400 full-time faculty and about 700 part-time faculty.
Does BMCC have certain areas of specialization that would make students go there as opposed to other community colleges?
We have a very strong business program. We were founded back in the 60s on business. We actually were founded as a feeder to Baruch College.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and business administration and business management. And we still remain the largest feeder to Baruch in the area of business.
How would you describe your students? I mean, do they tend to be older students? Are they, as opposed to students who are just out of high school, or what?
We have a mixture of students. We have students who are returning, were once in college and now back to college. We have students who are in the workforce, and we have students who are fresh out of high school. Now, I should point out to you that we have an evening weekend program. We have, our college is open on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and we address the needs of those students who are in the workforce, and they're able to get a degree in 7 different programs on the weekend only.
Is that unusual for the community colleges to do, or do most of them do that?
It's not unusual in the United States. It's unusual in CUNY. There may be other schools and other colleges, community colleges in CUNY who have evening weekends, or at least working on them, but we have actually put it into place.
So community college graduates tend to get a 2-year degree. Is it called an associate's degree?
It's an associate degree.
It's an associate degree. But a lot of people would say that to compete successfully in today's workforce, eventually you're going to have to get a 4-year degree. I mean, do you agree? And what role does the community college play in this whole academic hierarchy?
I think it depends on what the student is looking to do. Ideally, it's best to have a 4-year degree. But we understand at BMCC, we consider ourselves the first 2 year of a 4-year degree.
Okay.
We have more liberal arts degree programs. In other words, more programs that actually transfer to the 4-year institutions.
Okay.
So a lot of our students actually transfer from BMCC to many other places. However, we do have those programs which are considered to be career-oriented programs. We have nursing, we have computer information systems, We have accounting programs where students sometimes go into the workforce from there. So we have those programs, but we are not in a technical school.
Okay.
We don't have technical programs per se. We have, in the health field, I named nursing, we have paramedics. We have, that's the emergency medical technician program as well. And we have respiratory therapy program, as well as health information technology.
And those are all 2-year.
Those are all 2-year programs.
Do you also have, I know some colleges have certificate programs, people who are working and they go back to get a certificate in a certain specialty. Do you have those as well?
We do not have any certificate programs as of yet. We are looking at certificate programs. We work very closely with our Manhattan Educational Opportunity Center, which reports directly into Borough Manhattan Community College. They just got a $3.5 million grant to work toward putting students into the workforce, and out of those we'll probably grow many certificate programs.
Do most of your students go on to 4-year colleges, to other institutions after BMCC?
Yes. Majority of our students transfer, and they transfer within CUNY, and they also transfer outside of CUNY. We have a lot of articulations with private schools. We have them with Cornell, with Vassar, with Columbia. We have students who transfer into Columbia. We have many academic programs that are easily transferred throughout the system as well as in other places. A lot of our graduates even leave us and go to major universities out west. We have several students in Stanford University. Yeah.
Okay. Once your students do graduate and go on to other institutions, what kind of feedback do you get, both from the students themselves and the colleges they go on to, about their preparation?
We get a great deal of feedback. I'm very proud, as is the President Perez, we're very proud of our work that's done by our area of student affairs. In student affairs, we have a very unique way of working with our students once they've left us, and we stay in touch with them. So student affairs, as well as academic affairs, working together, we track a lot of our students. And our students love to come back to us. If you go on our website, you will see many times students returning, giving the stories of what they've done, how well they've done, and where they are. In fact, we just in the midst of producing a program right now, or a bulletin right now, that will show those of you who are interested in where BMC students go. It's called the Mark of Excellence. And with this brochure, or this document, you'll see that our students really do go, as a motto say. We say, start here, go anywhere. And our students do. They start at BMCC and they do go anywhere.
There's a lot of talk about high school graduates not being sufficiently prepared for college when they come out. Certainly when they come out of New York City high schools, and a lot of those students, as students who are in need of remediation, are steered towards the community colleges. I think they used to be able to go to the 4-year college, but now they go to the community colleges. Are those allegations of unpreparedness among high school students that you see, are they accurate? Do you see a lot of students who are not so prepared?
Students come to us are often unprepared. Some of them are not coming out of the high schools. Some of them have been out of high school for a very long time and have forgotten, as you pointed out in the article of the young lady who could not solve the quadratic equation. She was not fresh out of high school. She had it, and she indicated that in the article. She has just forgotten. I think most people, if you ask them, after being out of high school for quite a few years, how to solve a quadratic equation, they maybe not be able to do that.
Right.
So I think, though, the students coming fresh out of high school, those who come directly to us, they still lack the skills, the prerequisite skills to go into content courses. And as you well know, and what my interest is, being in mathematics, is that a great number of them don't do well in the area of mathematics. They what I think happens in public school is that students get maybe 2 or 3 years of mathematics, but it's important for them to have 4 years of mathematics, not to leave high school not having any mathematics in the 4th year of which they've studied, because if they're not involved, then it's likely that they will not remember. But I think most of us, myself, clearly, when I graduated high school years ago, you were required to have 4 years of mathematics. Right.
But not now?
You're not required to have 4 years of mathematics. New York State has 3 years of mathematics. You
know, we talked about, that BMC student in the New York Times article who was struggling in a remedial math class to learn the things that perhaps she had learned in high school had forgotten. I suspect there are a lot of students who just don't learn it in the first place. Is it possible for a student to make up in 1 or 2 college remedial classes all of the stuff they didn't get in high school? I mean, is it possible to really bridge that gap with remediation?
Yes, it's possible. Students do it. But it depends on where the student is starting. If the student's starting in arithmetic, where in fact they have forgotten a great deal of just basic arithmetic skills, it's sometimes difficult
or
for
never
them.
Learned it in the first place for
or never learned
reason.
it
Right.
Or never learned it in the first place. But I think most of them have learned it. What I think happens in mathematics is not that students are not taught. I believe faculty or teachers in the high school are teaching. The question is, are the students remembering, or how are they applying the mathematics?
Okay.
If you learn to read and you never read, eventually you probably are not going to be a good reader.
Right. And most people continue to read, but they don't necessarily continue to do math.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about that more. That's interesting. But right now we're going to take a short break. Then we'll be back with Dr. Sadie Bragg, Senior Vice President of the Borough of Manhattan Community College.
Mom, I'm not going to go to college.
What are you saying? You've got to go to college.
Well, they offered me a job and...
Son, college is much more important.
No.
Yes.
No, Mom.
Yes.
Anyways, it's my decision.
Okay, well then decide what degree you're going to get, because you will go to college.
Their tomorrow depends on your words today. The Hispanic Scholarship Fund has the information you need to help your kids go to college.
Welcome back to One to One. I'm Sheryl McCarthy of the City University of New York, and I'm talking with Dr. Sadie Bragg, who's Senior Vice President and Provost of the Borough of Manhattan Community College, as well as Professor of Mathematics at the college. You were saying you think it's important for students to have 4 years of math. You're talking to somebody who had 4 years of math, who has probably forgotten most of it. But why? Why is it important for people to study math?
It's important to study math because you use mathematics in everything you do in life. Mathematics is not all about solving major equations. Mathematicians love mathematics, and they do lots of things. Okay. Practical mathematics, the use of mathematics is extremely important for students. And I think what we're looking at now, the college is involved in 2 major programs dealing with helping students better understand mathematics as they enter to college if they need developmental. And one of those programs is with the Carnegie Foundation. It's a program in mathematics literacy for college students. We have dubbed it Mathway in the world of mathematics that I live in. And this project is being done all across the United States with a select group of community colleges, of which Bmcc is one of them. And my faculty and my chair, and along with others, are working in Mathway. And the idea is that we're not going to try to do every level, arithmetic, algebra, intermediate algebra. We're not doing that tracking. we're looking at what are the skills that students actually need to succeed in mathematics.
Okay.
And we're putting together a list of those skills, and we're working with them, but more importantly, we're doing applications. We're applying what it is the students should learn.
And the mathematics skills they need to succeed in life.
In life, in a regular workforce. I'll give you a case in point. My son, who did not really want to take calculus when he got to college, and he says, I really don't need it, but I'll take it anyway. The year after college, he ended up working on Wall Street. And he came to me, he says, Mom, do you have my calculator that I gave you? This is the TI that do all these differential things. And I said, yes. I said, what do you need it for? He says, because I need it in the work that I'm doing in the program I'm working on in this Wall Street program. And he explained to me what he was doing. Now, this is not a person whose field is in mathematics nor interested.
Right.
But the job he had required him. Had he not had a background of thinking mathematically and learning some of these things, he could have never held that job.
Now, does BMC require, do students have to take math courses there?
BMCC students, once they finish developmental math, they have options.
Okay.
If they're going into liberal arts, they have certain options. They can take a liberal arts math. Many of them take the most important math that I think students need to take today. And not being a statistician, I say this, but I am a mathematician, not a statistician. That is statistics. A lot of what we're looking at as those of us in mathematics across the country, looking at changing what is, we're looking at how to make students quantitative literate. Because what they need to understand is how to use numbers, how to work with numbers. So numeracy is very important, and how to understand it and how to reason with it. So quantitative reasoning and quantitative literacy have become really very much on the minds of a lot of those of us who are working in mathematics to get people to understand. Not every student will have to take algebra, trigonometry, or college algebra unless they're going into a track of becoming a scientist, or what we call STEM,
right?
Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Those students would need the rigor of that, and there's no way around that. They will have to do it. But not every student needs it.
But statistics, you say, is very helpful in other professions.
Very helpful.
And you almost became a sociologist. I know you really need to know statistics to do sociological research.
All social scientists, they are very good at statistics, I'm sure, because that's the basis of their work. I mean, they have to look at data, analyze it, you know, work with it in a way to get an understanding of what it means. Yeah.
Now, in that same New York Times article we were talking about, a BMCC faculty member was quoted as saying that the college is dealing with the same kind of lack of preparedness in students that we were dealing with 40 years ago. The only difference is that students today don't seem to recognize what they don't know. Do you encounter that same kind of, I guess, sort of arrogance in college students today, that they seem to know it all?
Well, I remember I'm not in the classroom.
Right.
So I don't encounter it. My faculty has not indicated that it's an overwhelmingly problem. I would say, though, that most students come and not really know what they need. And part of what we have to help them do is to understand what they need. For example, students who are going into non-STEM disciplines may not think that they need certain mathematics, but I know for myself, when I was in the classroom, I taught mathematics for respiratory therapy majors, and in doing so, they have to understand a lot about mathematics just to handle the tools that they use in respiratory therapy, to be able to read the speedometers of the various odometers that are on their equipment.
Right.
In order to do that, they have to have a sense of mathematics. And that mathematics will help them. More importantly, they have to understand what it means to do ratios and proportions, which is a large part of what you do in the health field medically. They also have to understand the relationship between the science they learn. Most of the students who are going into two-year colleges and nursing and respiratory therapy and all of this, they have to take science courses, and those science courses are based in mathematics. You can't get through those courses unless you understand the fundamental underlining of mathematics. So it's not that they don't know. They do know that they need it, but they have to be shown the relationship. If you teach in isolation and you don't show the students why they need what they need and where it's leading them, then they may not feel comfortable saying, well, why am I learning this? Why are you teaching me this? Another example, when I was teaching, I asked a student if they knew how to graph a straight line, because they were coming from a developmental class where they had learned that. Most of them knew that. And then we talked a little bit about the equation of the straight line. And then I asked them, where had they seen such an equation? Y equals mx, which is very much the slope of the equation for a straight line without the intercept form. So y equals mx is very much done in chemistry. So I said to them, you take chemistry. Where have you seen this before? They couldn't remember. But if they look back, they'll see that that's part of the laws that they've studied in chemistry as well. It's just in chemistry, they use a K for the M, they use a P for for the pressure, and a V for the volume, and we use X and Y's. But you have to relate that to the student. The student has to understand the relationship between what they see in one class and what they get in the other.
Now, you grew up in Virginia, went to racially segregated schools, back then. How did you get into mathematics, which is a field where there are relatively few women and relatively few African Americans?
I've always loved mathematics. I don't quite know how I've started that love, but I did. As I said earlier, I had great teachers in high school. I went to a very strong high school, even though it was in the segregated South. And our teachers worked very hard to make us the best we could be. And the one teacher that stands out, there are actually two, my geometry teacher and my algebra teacher, but my algebra teacher was pretty persistent. If she could hear this interview or see this interview, we had a little nickname for her behind her back. We called her the Hawk because she made us do everything correctly, and she was always on top of us. But it paid off because she was very good at it, and she made us very good at it. So she was my inspiration for wanting to be in mathematics when I was in high school. The other thing, they said that girls, don't do well in mathematics. That's a myth that we have to get rid of. That is not true.
It is not true.
It is not true. I've got a granddaughter. I know it's not true. Girls will do well in mathematics. We just have to let them do mathematics. And sometimes in the classes, the belief is that men will do better or boys will do better. So you gravitate to do things with boys that you don't necessarily do with the girls. But girls can do mathematics. I remember in high school that everyone had to take 1 or 2 courses. The boys took shop and the girls took home ec. I was not a home ec girl, and I refused to take it. So they took me to the principal and said, all the girls take home ec. Sadie doesn't want to take home ec. I told them I wanted to take shop. Well, only the boys took shop. They finally gave in.
And you got to take shop?
I got to take shop.
Well, there you go.
And I built myself a house.
Wow. I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
So I think it's a matter of persistence. It's a matter of allowing young girls. I was a teenager, allowing me to make my voice that I didn't want to cook or sew. I wanted to do math.
Right.
And I know the boys were doing math, they were
Right.
cutting woods, and they were doing all kinds of things. Why couldn't I do that?
And probably some of those stereotypes exist for, African American students as well, and maybe keeping them, discouraging them from going into math. But unfortunately, we're going to have to talk about that on another show. But I'm sure you're going to continue to advocate in a very energetic way for mathematics for the students at BMCC and for everyone. We're out of time, but I want to thank Dr. Sadie Bragg, the Senior Vice President of the Borough of Manhattan Community College of the City University of New York, for joining us today. You can learn much more about the college by checking on its website, bmcc.cuny.edu. For the City University of New York and One to One, I'm Sheryl McCarthy.